you would, please.
Last year, my wife got enough. She had 1099s for $17,000. I go read.
You were live.
All right, thank you. We normally start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and in recognition that it's been, 100 years today that the 19th Amendment was ratified, giving women the right to vote in the United States, I would ask Amy French. Amy, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's consider the minutes from our last meeting, June 12th, 2020. Have the board members had an opportunity to review those minutes? Any changes, corrections, suggestions? I would move to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passed.
Oh, you got, okay. No.
We're ahead of you. One
Yeah, you
signature
are.
ahead of you. All right. Vote Center Amendment to approve early voting schedule. We have circulated an early voting schedule. Julie, has that changed at all?
From, well, here is the list. I couldn't even tell you.
I'm looking at what I'll
Without
consider a
comparing it.
spreadsheet. And so we have the list. And how does this list compare with what we have done in the past,
Well,
the past election?
Well, the past election, these are the same sites that we've used. And as you know, we don't have the availability to use Purdue and some other sites that we've had in previous years. So these are ones, but these worked very well because the majority of them are very, very large, so we can continue to spread out.
And I haven't counted them up, Julie, but how many do we have here?
There's 10 total, including Tippecanoe County office building. So this would offer us 28 days of early voting with, would give us 331 hours available for the public to vote early.
And why do, where did you pull that stat? I mean,
You know Mike Smith, who loves to come up with the hours.
all right.
He figured that out by looking at the schedule and how many hours. And you guys all have that in your packet.
Is,
I do.
Yes.
how does this list compare with the email that was sent out August 11th to take a look and confirm and consider what our hours are going to be at various locations?
Mike, did anything change from the email that you did when you did the calendar look? Okay,
All right,
exactly.
so it's the same thing. This is the list of the satellites 2020G is what I'm looking at now. And it includes all those locations that were put on the calendar. The 2020G would indicate the locations, the calendar shows the times. Am I missing anything by that?
No, but if I may list, so people that are listening on the live stream can know what sites we're talking about. Tippecanoe County Office Building, St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Center, Faith West Community Center, West Point Volunteer Fire Department, Stockwell, United Methodist Church, Fellier Foods, North End Community Center, East Side Assembly of God, River City Community Center, and Northview Church.
And so these are all the locations. There have been no changes from the spring primary, is that correct?
Is there,
All right. And by law, we're required to go back to the same places anyhow, aren't we?
yes, unless we do an amendment to the voting center. And we do have 2 Saturdays included as well. Actually, 3. We're using 3 Saturdays, but the law requires 2. We have 3 Saturdays.
Okay, unfortunately, I'm lost. I thought this is what we were doing on early voting.
That is.
These
Okay.
are the locations, the 2020G seems to be the locations that are included. And what you have there in front of you, Kent, looks like the actual calendar of the times at those locations.
Okay, so we're only using, the only place we can vote on most of these days is the office building. And then there's 5
Yes.
days
Yes.
where we have the actual expanded voting?
Well, you have the Saturdays, you have all 3 Saturdays, packed with different voting centers.
Okay, we have a Purdue Day and a road day, and then the 4 voting centers we're using plus the office building. So, I mean, when it says here Northside Community Center, why isn't that on this sheet? Or is it?
Is that what they call the north end? I think it could be referred to, I take it it's the same thing, north side versus north end community center. And it's pretty small type that.
Well, okay, here's, I'm going to a concern. We work here in Tippecanoe County to try to make it easy. We have that's historical and the student voting. I believe that the voting by mail has been effectively sabotaged. We have it going on, and this is, at a national level. But they've taken 500 to 600 mail sorting machines out. They've destroyed them. They were removing all of these mailboxes across the country. Some places they stopped, some places they haven't. I hear anecdotally, from mail deliveries that they have seen some people just coming all along. In any event, we are being told on a national level that voting by mail is fraudulent. And so people are really concerned. And then on top of that, we have the virus. So I think that in regards to this schedule here, the last 5 days, we have those 4 additional sites plus the office building. But I would like to also we'd have to start it on the 19th, do those expanded sites for those additional days that we're going to have to do something along those lines. So
we're looking at the numbers of what was voted in the past and realize that we have already had 2,500 of absentee ballots. We are going to have more absentee ballots than we ever have had in any election. The last presidential election, we had just over 2,000, and we are early in the time period and already have 2,500. So we know a lot of in the past that voted in person are not going to be voting in person. We've also looked at the numbers in that last 2016 presidential election to come up with this and the amount of hours, and that's why it's important to know how many hours are available for people to vote, 331. A lot of these vote centers, what we don't want is where they come in and you only have like 7 people, 20 people vote. We want to utilize the vote centers. So the fact that we have all this availability during early voting is an absolute plus. We don't think we're also trying to keep the costs down. So why have extra where only a few people might vote?
Well, I mean, we want to get it the right size, but that's going to be the struggle on it. We had in the rounding numbers, we had in the primary about 20,000 votes, and approximately half of them were absentee.
Mail-in absentee, is that what you're?
Well, mail-in absentee or absentee. A lot of people were doing that. And now we have a drop box problem. And,
yes, we do.
Okay, and maybe, because you've been dealing with that, explained, and that's coupled with this, but just explain what that is.
Right, and a lot of that, was going to be something we discussed, but Mike, can you tell us how many hours, do you know how many hours we had available in 2016 for early voting?
If my memory serves me correctly, it was about 450, it was about 100 more. Just because we were in the nursing homes, and we're not going to be able to beat that in there. I would point out that traditionally we run 40 to 48% of the folks who will vote early in person, and that percentage was only about 12% this year, this spring. So there was only a fourth of people that we usually would expect for early voting turned out in the spring. So that just kind of gives you some perspective. And then, of course, then as you alluded to, the previous record for absentee by mail was 2020, and we're well eclipsing that.
So am I hearing you right that we had early voting hours, but they were underutilized this spring? For
Yes.
whatever reason, it was underutilized.
I think I don't want to make an overgeneralization, but I think I think we're almost right sized, but if we expanded back to 2016, I think we'd be oversized. And then there's just certain things that our hands are tied at, and it's very difficult to find people that are willing to host us right now, and that meet ADA and Board of Health requirements. So,
And I want to add, though, too, one of the sites that's been underutilized is ours, right here. And that's one of the reasons why we got the signs to add on the other side of the building. And we did pull in more people than we usually did. And we hope to continue to do that because here, it is open every day during the week. And we want people to utilize this office. It's right downtown. It's accessible.
Do we have some intention of making this room or some additional space available for early voting this fall?
We want to use this room as much as possible. If not, we'll be using that back end of that room, of this room, to where they would do in the hallway.
Isn't at least 60,000 voters realistic here? I mean, we had 20,000 in the primary. We got 100,000 eligible voters. I don't know what's going to happen at Purdue and things like that, but, you know, the common consensus with the talking heads that you hear is this is, you know, the record turnout year. And so, you know, we maybe had too much when we had 20,000 voters, but will that be enough if we have 60,000 voters?
But I'm hearing someone saying that in 2016, when we had, let's say, 60,000, a few more than that voters, that some of our vote centers were underutilized. Am I hearing that?
Yeah, particularly some of the nursing home ones.
Yeah, but nursing homes were not allowed in this fall.
Right.
Well, we may be by the time, you don't know, but...
But that's another thing to consider. We are trying to work very hard with the nursing homes so that people vote by mail.
What I'm hearing Kent say is you would like to see our hours expanded for the centers that are listed on the calendar for the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. Am I? And maybe, well, not the 24th, but during those weekdays, the week prior to the election.
Yeah, I want to look at that, and in conjunction with that, I mean, you know, we were encouraging people that vote absentee to use our drop box.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and we have been told by the state, both an R and a D, I mean, it's not you know, that drop boxes are out, and on that. So that, to me, creates a big problem because, you know, if somebody comes down and a guy comes down and, you know, and we got the virus, and so they say, hey, we don't want to stand in line, so we'll do our absentee ballot, and the guy comes down and drops off the ballot of him and his wife. He doesn't have his wife with him. He has to sign an affidavit.
Yes.
Okay, thing like that. So somebody says, okay, I'm going to collect the ballots on Central Street, and, you know, they bring down a half a dozen. You know, that ain't going to work and on this time.
What I'd like to propose with the drop box, though, is to still have one here to where we have someone that does sit with it the entire time. And if somebody does come in, we have the affidavits available where they can fill it out.
Yeah,
Different problem. Let's
Yes.
address this vote center issue here.
Let's go back to the vote center. Mike, I'd like to ask you, do you think any of those places are willing to open their doors?
Absolutely.
For
And
longer.
The only caveat would be probably a couple of them would not want to be there on Sunday if you're talking about any Sundays, because there are a church scheduled services in there.
Am I reading this right? We're proposing the actual locations in this, and we're not addressing the hours. Is that
The
correct?
hours are on there.
All right,
Yes,
all right.
They're on there.
But the hours don't have to be on there, or do they by statute?
I think they have.
I think they have to be, but you can amend this at your leisure. You can amend this clear up till the 3rd of October.
Yes.
Exactly, and we can add to it as we choose, we just can't take away from it, is
So-
that correct?
Absolutely.
How about if we talk to the other places to see if the week before the last week, if there's some hours that we can add.
We look at some other sites, but just with the spacing requirements, things like that.
We want large sites.
Wouldn't the solution be then to move second and approve this as a minimum? I mean, it's a statutory document, it's as a minimum, and then if we can pick up our extra times, then we pick up our extra times.
Well,
Certainly, I'm not opposed to that, and that's what Kent's suggesting.
well, I mean, I'm suggesting on those that we duplicate, right now, the 27th through the 30th, that we add in the 20th through the 23rd.
All right, and I get that, but what I'm hearing is we don't necessarily have that permission from those locations.
Correct.
Although that you believe they'll certainly participate.
Heather, we've worked with these people before. I think they'll work with us as long as we're not asking for something.
Do we believe that we can staff these locations?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't seem to have a problem finding poll workers.
Oh, really?
No,
We are different than other counties, apparently.
Okay, all right. I mean, that's not,
a list.
okay.
We have too many poll workers right now.
Other than the fact that there could be some budget issues, then what would be
Yes,
the
that would
harm
be
in
an
doing this?
There is not a harm.
And the budget issue isn't the issue. It's just staffing, in my mind, and being available. At the end of the day, Julie, what is your thought about considering Kent's suggestion of moving what is 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, and taking all those locations and also putting them in at the 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd? I mean, is it going to work for the BER?
We can make it work.
It's going to work from a staffing point of view. We believe it'll work from the facilities point of view. Is that correct?
I think so.
The facilities are nice size. I'd rather have it underutilized than us be packed, but I am hoping that people will utilize absentee voting more than Election Day. And I think that's something that we would want to keep getting out into the media, that please come vote early. And if they do that, then this would work out very, very well.
Germany or Juan, do you see any problems with what we're talking about so far?
Then I would make a motion that in regards to the early voting, that we adopt the schedule here on this exhibit that's been passed out to us, with the addition of duplicating on the 20th through the 23rd what we now have on the 27th through 30th.
I will second that motion. Any discussion regarding the motion as it is on the floor? All in favor of that, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed. Of course, now we passed it, and we need to make sure it works out okay, but...
Yeah, and we can,
I mean, it's a staffing issue as I see it in facilities and so, all right. Now, let's see. Let's try to keep to our schedule. How about ballots and candidates? I take it we have a ballot that is close to being mailed?
Well, no, it's not close. I mean, we're still working on candidates. We're still getting school board candidates.
Okay.
They have all the way up to, let's see,
I was thinking that's what we decided in May. Oh, no, that was June, right?
August 21st. They have up to August 21st to get their petitions in for school
I keep forgetting
board.
the school board, so.
And so they are working, Germany and Juan are working hard on going through all those petitions to make sure that they are certified. And so it is August 21st is their deadlines. Ballots then will be they won't be able to be available till after August 24th, because that's the deadline then that someone can withdraw candidacy. So we do not want to start building our ballots till after August 24th. People are already asking, why haven't they received their ballot? And so this is another thing that needs to get out so people understand. We will not send out ballots until the 19th of September. So anybody that has given us an application up to this time, September 19th is when we will start mailing them, and then we will continue mailing them as we get them.
And Julie, do you know of any reason why people can't apply for a ballot before September 19th, and we can process it and be ready to go to drop them in the mail?
We would like people to apply as soon as possible. As Kent brought up, the issue with the mail, the deadline is a bit close to the election, but the more people, if they apply for these applications well in advance, we will not have a problem processing them. It's those that wait to the last week of the deadline, and the deadline, by the way, for ballots, let's see. It's not on here. Mike, do you know the deadline for the ballots?
The mail back and return?
Yeah.
By mail, 7 days for the election.
7 days? That's,
But
if they can
okay.
do that-
Is that in courting disaster?
14 days would be nice.
All right, all right. But who's going to process or generate, build our ballot this year?
Who's
who
going
we
to
gonna
do
hire?
it?
Who's the
GBS.
Okay.
GBS.
And we've used them for a couple of years now, have we not?
Yes.
All right, all right. Anything else about that we should consider?
No, like I said, we've already received over 2,500 applications for mail-in
And there's
ballot.
nothing wrong with that, is what I hear you saying. Is that correct? They're just not going to get them for a while. People can apply, but they just won't get them because we haven't built the ballot. We won't build the ballot until sometime between August 24th and September 19th.
Correct.
And so we won't be mailing things out until after September 19th. I take it members of the media present have heard that?
Is media present?
I don't think so, but all right. All right, anything else regarding that?
No.
Well, what's this business about AccuVote optical scanners update?
Well, because we acquired some more optical scanners, we have to do we have to certify our inventory. So we
Where do we sign? Forgive me.
we purchased 7 new optical scanners, and
Oh, that's right, we bought those.
yes, we did.
These are previously used equipment, is that correct?
It is previously used. They came with all the bells and whistles. We got the memory cards, we've got cases, and
We bought them for a bargain, too, did we not?
yes, less than $50 a piece.
Sign here.
Do we have to have a resolution?
You're just certifying, I have the list of, this is our entire inventory, which even includes ones that are broken.
And forgive me for being a little informal regarding that. It seems like we've done that several times in the past.
And I assume we won't have anybody from the Lake Board of Elections signing this.
I hope not.
That's just to make sure they get their 5.
Oh, one size fits all?
Do we have to make a motion, Mike?
So,
Oh, wait. It's administrative, so. All right. Requested printers. Why would we be?
Oh, I got one more. Wait a minute.
Okay,
We also,
okay.
we have to also certify the VRG 21. That's on the next thing in the list.
All right, all right.
And so every year we have to do what's called a list maintenance program, and this is just to testify that, yes, we did it, and we canceled voters that needed to be canceled.
All right, and again, this is administrative, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. And this is according to the state and federal law, and it's Indiana Code 37 that has us do this. And then this gets filed with the Indiana Election Division.
Are we now down to requested printers?
Yes. So
where's
due
that
to COVID, we've requested a printer scanner for small tasks from the Secretary of State. So we haven't gotten word if that's something that will be fulfilled, but there's a lot of, we only have one printer in the office right now, but I have also contacted the commissioners, we have one sitting in here, that we need also a large printer to print ballots on demand. You know, using one during this whole time was very, very difficult, and what's what kept us here very late at night, printing out ballots. To have two would help us get, and I expect we're going to have, you know, lots of ballots, and so it'd be very helpful. So that's something I'm still working on. I haven't heard, you know, on a kind of whether we should lease one, whether a department will let us borrow one for the entire day versus before we used another department's during the night, but we would like it during the day.
Is this the bottleneck that we encountered shortly before the election when we couldn't print out ballots to mail them out?
Well, we did mail them out after we got them on time, but it meant some of us never slept.
And you went and borrowed someone's printer, if I remember right.
We did, yes.
One of the other, okay. And
we worked the whole weekend and the holiday to get it done.
Are you saying we can't count on that happening just because we can't control that printer that we borrowed this spring?
If we only had it during, you know, like I said, the weekend and a holiday. We don't even have a holiday this time. So we definitely, this is a must. Somehow we need to have the use of another large printer that can print out ballots.
But this is office equipment. Since when have we been involved in buying office equipment?
I'm just letting you know.
All right, thank you. Then, do we need to talk about that more?
Maybe you can put some pressure on some others.
Well, right, we know a couple people that we could suggest that to, but all right. Okay, and I, for one, am personally familiar with, you know, what the staff went through, and I think you had some volunteers and the real bottleneck that one printer. So my suggestion would be is work that out as best you can, because that needs to be overcome, particularly considering the expectation that we're going to have a lot of absentee ballots. Approved poll worker contract.
I'd like to table that. I was hoping that we'd have it done, and we do have one that's done, but I don't, I think it's getting too convoluted. It's just too big, so if we can have some more time, we can table it.
And maybe, am I wrong, but in the past, didn't we have a one-page document?
It is a one-page shoved, yeah, lots of stuff.
But it seems it's morphed into something else now, but is there a reason for that?
The laws have changed, and there's other issues that there's issues that come up that we realize we have to put this in the contract so people understand better what's expected of them.
Anybody want to take that on, or we just move on? Let's move on. Selecting new voting system, what's that all about?
Well, everybody would like a new voting system, and I'm going to invite Mike to come up to share. We've done several surveys, and we've done lots of calls to other counties, and if Mike, do we have a microphone? Oh, over here.
By the way, can they see any of this stuff, or are we going to have anything up on the board?
There's, no.
All right.
I don't have, we didn't have enough.
All right.
But I got packets we did.
Do you need that brought out in front of the microphone?
That might be easier.
Yes. Then the microphone.
It was too much, don't worry about it. Thanks, Max.
All right, Mike, if you would, go ahead and introduce yourself. I mean, we know you, but for the record, if you would, please.
I'm Mike Smith. I'm part-time board staff here, and I've just been working on a couple different projects, and one of them is some research on all the voting equipment that's available to us. And I just want to walk you through some stuff. I'm going to give you on the board a packet. I will make this available on the website afterwards. I already sent some soft copy to Heather and Tracy as the chairs already, so
But Mike, I'd like to verify, I see various people in the audience that are paging through documents. Do other people have the results? Other people in the room have the results?
Heather and Tracy may have them, but they probably didn't bring them, but they're probably paging through their agenda and stuff, but I haven't handed this out.
All right. Well, I just wanted to make sure that, I mean, I've seen it, I have some of this.
Some of it.
And, well, some of it doesn't
Mike has
print very
put
well.
together some more stuff.
The comments print very, very well, but the spreadsheet didn't print. I did like the comments, and you'll flesh this out, I know, and hopefully I'm not stealing your thunder, but I did like some of the observations of the people that helped us test the equipment. The one that was the most profound that I want to just note is voters will be wandering like cattle as they look for the next station. So we did have some pretty good input, so. All right, Mike, if you would, thank you.
I really appreciate this opportunity to have done this project. I'm in my 7th clerk now. I go back to Amy Irwin with Joe Bummelberg. I went through Sarah Brown, Ruth Shedd, Betty Michaels, Sarah again, Linda Phillips, and now I'm on Julie. Really appreciate Heather Maddox always trusting me and bringing me into. I very much appreciate the working relationship I had with them, her, and Germany and Juan, our staff upstairs. So it's kind of fun to do this. On March 9th, we hosted a vote night here in the Tippecanoe room. We had roughly 50 attendees, which I think was tremendous. We had 5 different systems demonstrated: the Heart Verity Duo, Heart Touch Writer, ES&S, Microvote, and Unison. And just a remarkable turnout, remarkable response on the surveys. You have some of the surveys summarized for you from round 1 on some of these pages, and like Randy said, people wandering like cattle, but each machine had some feedback, both positive and negative. Overall, the system that scored the most, ES&S, has to have an asterisk because we did not proceed with ES&S because the Secretary of State's office sanctioned that company for illegal activity. And so we threw out consideration of ES&S, and that's posted on the Secretary of State's website, the whole report issued by Ball State University from the 2018 elections in Johnson and Howard counties. They took illegal shortcuts and falsified reports. So we do not want to work with a company like that, so we threw them out of consideration. So that left us with 4. So we took the top 2 scores, which was Microvote and Unison, and we started really digging into them and looking into much more of the technical stuff with Ball State University, and then contacting other counties and visiting some other county folks. We even had some other folks come by here. Allen County particularly has used Microvote for years, and they're very delighted with Microvote. And Lake County, huge county with 300-some thousand registered voters. So it's some other big counties like us, and then of course White County, Sullivan County, some smaller counties around us. The bottom line is, when we did our second round, Microvote came out as the choice of the vast majority of folks. And in the 20 categories that we asked folks, in the second round we had roughly 20 invitees. Some folks that were very technologically oriented, some county officials, and then some very long-time seasoned poll workers. And in 18 of the 20 categories, Microvote was preferred over the Unison in the demonstration. And so we also have on the horizon with Microvote immediately, from what you've seen, a little bit more of a streamlined screen. So that was the biggest concern. That was the 2 places where Microvote underscored Unison was the screen. But it appears, based on the technological, the availabilities, the ease of voting with the transitional ease that we'd be using with Microvote, that Microvote would be my recommendation for us to consider moving forward with. I think that the transportation and storage of Microvote is superior to what we'd be dealing with Unison. And I also, with the way it was received by long-term poll workers and the public, it appears to be the choice of what appears to be people's choice. When they handled the equipment, they liked it. And then the other thing is that kind of sews it up for me is that any county that has this has not had any kind of problem with it. And when you have some counties as diverse as Vanderburgh County, which 330,000 registered voters, and Sullivan County with like 13,000, when you can service both ends of the spectrum like that and not get any kind of pushback, not having any glitches, I think you're doing well. When I talked to Dr. Baga at VSTOP, he can't give an opinion, he can't give a preference, but he says that basically his words are Microsoft is solid, and the Secretary of State's office very much likes Microvote as well. Microvote's currently in 64 Indiana counties. It is a Hoosier-based company out of Indianapolis, which I think is significant in this day and age. I think that we should buy local if possible, support the local economy, support the Hoosier economy. They're also just down I-65, so if I had to reach out and grab somebody, I would. Whereas some of our folks, like GBS, are away from us. This would put all of the equipment under one vendor. The poll books, no ink, would we need to be purchasing. They are also serviced by Microvote. So it's kind of like one-stop shopping and one-stop accountability. We don't have to go to a lot of different people to chase some stuff down. They would be the folks also probably building our ballots if we wanted to go that direction. That would also eliminate, so we'd go down from 3 vendors to 1. And that might also involve some cost savings where everybody, that has a piece probably marks it up just a little bit so they make sure they have a profit. But if you package things, your margin's probably going to be a little different. So I think that's also a very smart move. I'm open to any kind of questions. I will make this available. I don't want to go through this tediously, but I think that Microvote's the ease of setup it's going to be a smooth transition because it's not a huge leap of technology. And I just think that the way that our AccuVote system can be merged with that would be the only piece that's a sideline. I would recommend keeping our current absentee ballot system where we're doing it on card stock and we're feeding it through the AccuVote since we just got the 7 from Franklin County. That doubles our capacity for that. And I think that it's possible they can merge, they can tabulate these two together on election night. So that would be my recommendation.
Mike, do you have a feeling as to, and we'll talk about funding or here in a little bit maybe, but do you have a feeling from a Connie Lawson, Secretary of State point of view, which system they seem to like more than another?
They're not allowed to express a preference, but I know I have a feeling of what she likes. Should I say?
Well,
she's personally used.
She's personally used in her county when she was an election administrator. When she was an election administrator in Hendricks County, she used Microvote. So she has a long track record with it too. Microvote's been around for a while. Allen County, that's Fort Wayne, they have about 250,000 voters. They've used it through 4 clerks. I think Beth DeLug said. Beth, do you know Beth? Beth DeLug, the election administrator up there in Allen County. They would never leave it. They use no ink too the same time period. So. But then again, you go to like Michelle Thaman, Lake County's director, opposite side of the party, the Democrat. They love it. They use precinct level voting. They deploy 756, I think, to the field on election day. Machines, because they still do precinct level voting in Lake County.
There's a couple things I would like to add. Service is really important to us, how they respond and do we trust them. And of all the counties that we called, there was not one county that disliked their service. They absolutely trust these people, which is a real plus. The other thing, Mike had brought up that Microvote did not get good scores on the screen. On Friday, I was on a Zoom call or a meeting, a go-to meeting with the Indiana Election Commission on which they approved certification for Microvote. They just updated their screens. Now, the law does not allow Microvote or any vendor to talk about any kind of enhancements or improvements or exchanges until it's certified in Indiana, so we did not know about it. And so it was certified on Friday, so yesterday I got to speak with Microvote in detail on the screen improvements, and they are nice. It's more like a tablet. The colors have changed. They're more bright. The resolution is a lot higher. And I'm very excited that the screen they have, the timing couldn't be better. I wish we could use it for this election, but we don't have time to train people on this.
Just a couple more comments, some highlights from some other folks around the state. We have used Microvote since the 90s. We're very happy with them. We use Infinity and No Ink, both of which serviced by Microvote. They are responsive, knowledgeable, their costs are reasonable. They work hard to maintain your trust. Beth DeLug, Director of Elections, Allen County. Delaware County, that's Muncie, very comparable to us with Ball State University. They have a public university there. We have had these Microvote No Ink through 4 clerks. They are outlasting our personnel. Everyone here is satisfied with them. Rick Spangler, Delaware County Clerk. Lake County, Microvote is a workhorse, pretty easy to transport and deploy. It was the one everyone could agree on when we went to Microvote. Leanne Angerman, the Deputy Director of Elections in Lake County. Sullivan County, I was a county commissioner when we selected Microvote. Throughout my term, and as far as what I observed in the following years, it has been dependable, and the county has received excellent support. They are a Hoosier company. As voters, Betsy and I have complete confidence in the system. Luke Meisner, former Sullivan County Commissioner. But they're in your packet, and I'll make these available on the website this afternoon, including all the results from the surveys. This town, it's just amazing, and Julie alluded to it earlier with the fact that we have no problem staffing the elections. We have folks that are very, very engaged, and I really appreciate the people that turned out to both the vote nights and then the second round where we had our poll workers come out. They take this very seriously, and we got excellent feedback. And it was very helpful. And if you have any questions, I'm open. If not, you have a packet there.
There's one last comment I want to make. The commissioners will appreciate this. On Microvote, it is their product. It has the least amount of residual costs.
Yes.
It is the cheaper one of all of them.
Mike, I'd like you to speak, and then Julie, the thing. One, a lot of people are concerned about the paper trail.
Oh, yeah.
And speak to what Microvote offers on that. And then Julie, we got money available now, and what, how that money and what might fall to our local taxpayers, if any, getting that money. But I'd like to.
Microvote utilizes a VVPAT unit, which is a screen where it's a constant feeding spooled paper displaying the ballot after it's cast, and it's displayed through a little window that the voter can look at. It's spooled, and then they have a search. They have a searcher, a seeker, and if you needed to do a paper recount, you put the spool. It looks like receipt tape almost. You put the spool on this. It searches. It can search by name. It scans for the names that you want. Or you could do it by hand if you really wanted to. Also, you could just go down the line through the spool. But every vote is displayed, every vote is printed, every vote is also recorded on a card.
But it's paperless, but it's behind a screen.
It's never,
on a spool.
the voters don't touch it, the election workers don't touch it, which is, there are other things we thought about, like with one comment you had, people will be carrying these little slips of paper around looking for their next station. I mean, I can just see that too. It's a very secure thing. In fact, that was one of the comments from somebody who observed that, is the fact that the paper is never in anybody else's hands, but it is displayed. I mean, it's very transparent, but yet the poll workers don't have to mess with it, and then it's not in the hands of anybody else. So the other thing that was nice about that was the programming to the Microvotes is extremely easy. It's much easier and will go much faster than what we're doing with TSXs. Although we've gotten to be pretty fast with that, but instead of every single machine needing brought up and carded and a unique card, we have one card that we can do each site with. So it'll cut the time of programming down too. So that's nice. But the transparency of that vote, and then it is preserved on a scroll. And then, but it's a lot smaller than a garbage can full of 8x11 card stock. So it's a lot easier to handle and store and secure. Like we've all been through a recent recount, and we had to borrow 2 conference rooms indefinitely, till the recount was over, and we stored all the equipment, all the ballots. This is a lot easier to store. We could store this in several shoe boxes.
Does the board have any other questions or comments?
Well, just on the money, I'd like to.
On the money, so it's already been agreed that whatever system we pick, that there's grant money through the Secretary of State that will pay for all of those that we need.
The capital outlay.
And we are also looking for grant money and believe that we can get it, that will also pay for the e-poll books.
All right, and so there's a distinction between the election equipment and the e-poll books.
Yes.
And in the past, didn't we think that the county might have to absorb that? but we have no guarantees at this point in time, is
That's
that correct?
correct. No guarantee.
But we do know the county won't have to absorb the purchase of the Infinities.
And not only that, the first year, 22, they don't charge, they do it all for free. So there's not even.
The startup year for you.
Yep.
You 1 year service, and that'll actually help with training and stuff like that, too.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and what I think we're going to change the procedure as to what folks normally would see in here. I'm going to move that the Board of Elections pursue all avenues that we can to purchase, to acquire microvote equipment, okay?
When you say
Nice.
acquire, that could be either purchase or lease.
Either or, but I'm telling you right now that I'm not going to spend $2 million for the county unless it's all grant and compensated, but to acquire, I chose that word just because that's the word I chose. So.
I'd second it.
All right. Now we normally have that discussion, and you normally see a vote fairly promptly. But what I'm thinking is kind of reversing the process. Ken had suggested that maybe that what we would do is, what questions do people in the audience have, or comments regarding that, as compared to, and that's hear them, address them to us or address them to Mike. Yes, Heather.
I'm just thrilled to hear about the screen, because I could go either way with each system. I mean, I saw plus and minuses with both, so I was fine, but the screen was probably the one thing on the other that I didn't like, and so I'm glad, thank you for sharing that, because I'm glad to hear that. I'm very glad that it's a local user company, that's always a plus, so. And thank you for your work that you've done, and thank you guys for moving forward on this.
Tracy.
I would just like to echo what Heather said. We know this was a huge mountain for us to climb when we started having this discussion, 12 to 18 months ago, and having grant funding available is going to help us. And again, it is important that we show voters that we have a well-thought-out system in place and processes to make sure that every vote counts.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Anyone else? Anyone else? Here.
I noticed the
And please, and hang on a minute, we have a microphone coming, maybe, and forgive me, and for the record and for online audience, if you would indicate your name, please. And thank you, Max, I appreciate you taking care of that with the microphone.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, I'm Mel Groover, Melissa Furlong, Pretty Votes Coalition. And I was noticing in the packet that you share with Heather, Mike, that someone said that you have to have different machines for primary and election day. Can you talk about how that might be different from other companies, or is that similar? Tell me more about that.
Absolutely. The machines are programmed either for early or day of voting. And the reason that there's a distinction, usually that distinction would be made actually on our memory cards, but the distinction is with machines. And the machine is set to capture those because under Indiana law, you have to be alive on election day to have your vote counted, and that would be the only reason why you would purge a vote. And that's why there's this randomly generated number associated with every provisional ballot that's cast before election day. And so the way they developed their technology, as opposed to how other things evolved, was they just separated it out by machines in the machine brain rather than by cards. And other systems, it's card dependent rather than machine dependent. So that's the only difference. It would require us getting about 20 additional units because they're not site specific. So we would float them around all the early voting sites. So that's okay. But still, even with going up to 275, 285 units, microvote would still be much less expensive than some of the other options. And it wasn't just about cost. But just, it's an easy thing. It's also, when those come back, we can pull the memory and store the memory, and I'm not talking about downloading or anything like that. It's just, it goes to a different card, and then those machines can be put away and be done, and we just move forward, and so it would be easy processing in the office, actually, too.
And Mel, it's the same thing we do with our TSXs right now? It's the same process?
Yeah, it's just, but we usually we have created that process backdated till when Heather was in the office. We always just separated the units anyway, because we just designated them to this side, this side, this side, because it was easier to track, and you have to have a chain of custody on every single thing, and you have to document it. So we always did separate early from election day in the office as a matter of practice, just because it was easier for us to keep the documentation and to keep up with where things were. Because at every step of the game, you have to be able to show what machine was deployed to what site on what time, what day. So it became ingrained in us to think that way anyway. So it's not a leap for this office for that. It's just the machines are actually set up the way that we've been doing it. But that's a good question.
Any other questions?
These are lighter than what we do, that we use now if you're a poll worker. So that's significant too.
Thank you, Max.
No other questions for Mike? And you know, it's not just a one-pass system, so if there would be, if there would be something coming up, we could ask Mike again, but I just hate to have you say
Yeah, if you want to know any technical aspects or anything like that, you can just email me. I'd be happy to answer any nerdy questions you have.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe.
Here's the question to the board. Is there any reason why we wouldn't do this?
I don't see any reason why that. And I'm just saying something. We are not going to try to train on a new system in the next 2 months. So this will be actually, I don't think there's any elections in 2021. And so we'll have a lot of time to get it up and get it going. But I think this just, frames how we in Tippecanoe County want people to vote and are trying to do it as best we can, and there's just no hint of voter suppression.
Anyone else? I mean, I can't see any reason. I mean, obviously there's a choice to be made, but there does not seem to be a choice regarding whether or not we move forward to acquire equipment. And
well, this grant isn't available forever.
Exactly. And so we do have older equipment. I've regarded it as reliable, but the grant is available. Any other questions or comments from the audience? I would call, well, I'm not going to call the question. Let's vote on the motion that's on the floor. All in favor of acquiring microvote equipment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please show in the minutes that that passed. Thank you. And that's pretty incredible. It's been how long since we've acquired equipment? 2004 or 5, something like that?
2006, I think, is when you switched over and got more.
We actually got it.
Yeah.
What's this PPE measures?
Just to
wait a minute. Go ahead, please, Julie.
So we've ordered more supplies from the Secretary of State, which we're very appreciative that they do this for us. We had to do an inventory to see what we had left over and then report it back to them, and they are working on that, and they're going to ship it to us, and they've done a wonderful job, but we're going to continue what we've done with the voting sites. We think we've done a good job where we are keeping the distance. We do have the sneeze guards, and there are a few places where we might have voting in a smaller area, but other than that, those that were large, we did not have any complaints. People felt safe, so we're going to continue with that.
How many people in the audience actually worked at the polls or voted early or voted on election day? Did you hear anybody? Did you hear any complaints regarding how the vote center was set up, or that people considered that their safety was at risk? All right, and maybe that's the word we get out too, that we're very conscious of what it takes to protect our voting public, and that early voting is the way to go, but if people feel like they want to vote absentee, a paper absentee ballot, they should get their request in early, because we all know what happened last June. It wasn't the summer technically, but last June. I think our minutes reflect that there were 48 ballots that were received late. And we don't count those. By law, we can't. And so, we have early voting, we have, you can request your absentee, and we'll get them out to you. All right, any unfinished or new business?
So I just want to mention that you guys do have a calendar with your stuff that you can keep an eye on, but I want to bring up vote centers. So we didn't talk about that here, and one of the reasons is, well, we need to in the next meeting for sure, but you do in your packet have a list of vote centers for Election Day.
But how's that different than what we've approved in the past?
It's very different. So right now, we're still working on getting sites, so we only have 14 right now. And I would like Heather to take it to the mayor and talk to him, because we're not sure if City of Lafayette, if they want to use that. I know that you guys have they have two departments shut down over there, so we need to find out if he wants to even use that, if that's available. And so we need to do some discussions and find some other large places, because we'd like to have more than 14.
All right.
I'll call him later.
Thank you.
But in the past, we've had, what, 20, 21,
19.
22? All right, all right.
19.
And in the past, I've complained about having too many vote centers, but it wouldn't seem to be appropriate to talk about that this year, would it? All right. Heather, I mean, you remember the meetings going way back. So.
Now, the other thing I'd like to go back to is the ballot box.
Yeah, here's well, maybe you ought to tell what
Yeah,
we've been told by the state about the.
Flesh that out as to what.
Yeah, I wish I brought the email. So we became aware that there's a law that to have a ballot drop-off box is illegal. And the reasoning of that is because the law states who's allowed to drop off a ballot. And that is either a household member, the voter, or someone that is the POA. And there is an affidavit that when somebody comes in and drops off somebody else's ballot, they're supposed to fill it out and hand it in. And we did not do that. I was not aware of it. There's a lot of us clerks that were not aware of this law, but the Indiana Election Division did make it clear to us that that is the law. So my thought is, like I said, I think there's a workaround. That, I still would like a drop box, because people that want to do the drop box, there's two reasons. One, they're afraid that it's not going to come in the mail, get here in time. And the second reason is the reason that they're using the mail-in ballot is because they don't want to be around people. And so I want to suggest that we still have a ballot box drop-off, but we have someone that stays with it at all times. And so when somebody comes in, we have the affidavit, and we ensure that they do fill it out. And that's one of my ideas.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think we have to have two people there. I think it has to be an R and a D on things like this. And my idea to throw out, I mean, we're not going to do it today, but I am real concerned about that. There is the practice we established, if you will, just back in June, where a lot of people did that. So we're going to have to communicate that. And one possibility to me, and this is something I don't know how practical it is, but maybe have a couple of days where we can, under the statute, establish a satellite office. It has to be unanimous, but we could do this. So maybe we have a satellite office in a parking lot someplace, and we get it advertised, and we have the R&D there, and people come in and they can drop it off. So there'll be a drop-off day or something like that, and so they're
like
just...
drive-through drop-off, maybe?
Drive-through drop-off.
Why not?
And that type of thing. So this, Jeremy and Juan, this is why you get the big bucks.
What about having voters turn their ballots into polling locations, as we did?
They're already allowed to do that. It has to be the voter comes in.
But that doesn't solve the problem. I mean, it's a good point. You get a twofer on that, but that doesn't solve the issue about people that are afraid to be around other folks.
And they want more days. That, if a lot of them aren't available on Election Day, it's why they have a mail-in ballot as well.
You
So
can turn it into early voting sites, too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But so I just think we need some thought and a plan. But to me, the workaround on a drop box was, we call it a satellite voting office. It's a drive-through. It could be, if we might have to plan for a tent or something, but there's a thing like that because we want people to vote and feel comfortable, not that they had to put themselves at risk. That's my thought.
So we won't be using the tax payment drop box out in the county office building anymore?
No, that's,
No.
people are going to do it anyway, by the way, but
But they're going to, okay, but we need to get the word out that we've been told.
we will have to put a sign above that, by the way, that
You know,
says,
all right. I will raise one point, and I know this is committee business to get it solved somewhat internally, but are these boxes anticipated, are they locked or secured in some fashion that someone without a key cannot gain access? Or they have the seal on them?
we borrowed from the GOP, their big box that we had to put a lock, one of our locks on it.
All right, all right. So from a staffing point of view, maybe we don't need to have two people sitting there if it's secured, but that's something that we'll resolve.
Well, part of what I was concerned about is the husband that brings his and his wife's ballot, but when he bought his wife, he had to sign an affidavit.
Right, right.
And so
But
that's
it's
why I thought-
affirmed, it's not a notarized affidavit, is it?
I think.
No, I
just affirmed
haven't even
that
looked, I
was
think they're just
affirmed.
filling it out.
I'd have to look at that again, but all right, all right. Point well taken. Any other issue, any other business?
I don't know if any of the public has anything.
Any public comment? Ken?
Ken Jones, Lafayette, Indiana. In addition, I think Kent's idea of a remote office is great and drive through whatever. I think you also have to anticipate that there could be voters who, after the 19th of October, don't trust the mail for the reasons we've been advised, and don't have a P of A, don't have a close family member, and want to return that ballot. We get emails and phone calls, et cetera, can you pick up our ballot? The answer is no, we can't. Not without too many hoops. So I'm suggesting you have the power through a traveling board perhaps to establish, to say, if there's a traveling board that is set up to respond to people, go to their house and pick up a ballot, that would also be a great idea, if you can do that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Frankie Collins. I'm from West Lafayette, and I'm the new director for the Pretty Votes Coalition. I had noticed for the early voting station that there was only one near Purdue's campus on October 17th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. I was wondering if the board would be interested in working with Purdue to possibly put another early voting station or make the hours more accessible to students. That's it.
Thank you.
The answer is yes. Yeah, that's true. I mean, part of the problem with Purdue is what's available, because, you know, they only have the things, but if there's some way, if we need more or something like that, I think we're open to doing something like that. We want the students who want to vote here to vote here.
Mel?
Hi, Mel with the Purdue Votes Coalition, and that's something, as usual, that I can always help with. I'm already working on getting Protect Purdue exceptions for polling places on campus. So I already told Mike that I'm going to be reaching out to him so that we can talk about establishing polling places on campus again, so that there's not the illusion that the election board doesn't want Purdue students engaged in the polling, in the voting process. I know that that's not the case. So I'm always, as usual, the point person for that and working through those plans. I just need some information from the election board in order to complete those. The other thing I wanted to mention is I also, as a community member, so separate from my Purdue role, love the idea of the drive-through absentee ballot drop-off. And I also really want to encourage the election board to get some media around that. So I think posting a sign is great because people are still going to come to that. But I would love for people in the community to hear what the good work that you're doing around that. And so really encouraging you to reach out to the media to make sure that, because they're not here today. So how do we make sure that they know that these options are available so that we can make sure that the general public knows as well? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Please. The board recognizes Heather Maddox.
Thank you.
Well, she got ahead of you. Her
Yeah,
elbows were a little
mine's
sharp.
really quick. I just, talking about the traveling board, and I remember how logistical that's hard, and you gotta have one of each. But I think also it's something that with the early voting has got lost. So maybe that's something we could promote now, particularly with elderly not wanting to get out, because that is an option for people, and it might take some of it might make it easier for some people anyway. It's nobody's fault, it's just people can vote at Payless now, so they may not use it as much, or we go in the nursing homes, which I know we can't do that now, but that traveling board is a great option in this case, and you could have a few teams, if you need teams, I'd be happy to do it, too.
They do need to apply. We only had one that actually
Yeah, and I think
worked with
that's the
us.
thing, people don't even know anymore that it used to be, I remember Krista and I running out on the day before election day, because everybody else had went home to go to somebody's house and do it. So it used to be well known, and again, I don't think it's anybody's fault that people don't know about it. It's just something that with all the other options we have, I think have just kind of went. So maybe it's something that we can all work to publicize a little more too. Traveling board is when someone will come to a house, so someone that's sick or elderly or even a caregiver. So.
Right.
All right.
Thank you, Heather.
Take this away.
Thank you, Matt.
I'm Michelle Tomarelli, West Lafayette. I just wanted to say two things. One, when you're thinking about the tent, it will be in November, and I'm wondering if it wouldn't be better to nab some buildings that have drive-throughs built into them, like there's a drive-through at the former CVS building in West Lafayette. There must be buildings like that all over where they actually do have a drive-through that we could borrow. The other thing, and this was something that you mentioned, but it isn't on the agenda, and that is that when I came to vote for the primary, I was told by a poll worker that we didn't have enough Democratic poll workers. Is that remedied? Was that ever true?
I don't know who told, we did have.
Not true at all.
Not
we-
true?
We did
Okay,
have.
never mind.
We did have some poll workers that did not feel comfortable and left,
Once they got there, you mean?
yes.
That wasn't necessarily an R or a D issue, or was it? I didn't.
Well, I was told
believe this.
that it was a Democrat issue, that they
Here's
just didn't have enough
We
Democrats.
had, if anything, we probably had a lot more Rs during the ask to work as a poll worker. It was easier to have them work, maybe, I don't know, it depends what job. When it comes to, when you say poll worker,
Yeah,
that
there's
is
a group of
different.
people.
That's different from staff. So working up in the office, it was harder to get people that were older. It was easy to get the kids. I am wondering what will happen when we need a large group of people that work day-to-day, many long hours, and the schools are now in session and we won't have the kids. We'll see what happens, but that's different from a poll worker.
No, this was specifically, we don't have the Democratic poll workers.
We had Democratic poll workers at every site.
Your poll workers lie. At least one of them did. Or maybe he just didn't understand.
Or they misunderstood about
Yeah.
like the staff work, the clerical work.
Yeah. Well, let us know where to sign up, and we'll come and work for you.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
Hello, Margaret Haas, Lafayette, Indiana. I'm just here, I want to share a little bit of my experience on Election Day because I was at multiple locations. I ended the day at River City Community Center, and there were a lot of people arriving like right before it closed. Several people were frustrated because there was a new polling location and they had been to other places and they didn't know where to go. And there was especially one older disabled veteran who said he was frustrated because he knew the information was online, but he didn't have internet access. And he said it would be helpful if if the election board would communicate that in, multiple ways, maybe sending a postcard or with the new voting locations or getting it out. I think it's really, as other people have said, you're doing the work. It's more about communicating that to the community and meeting people where they are, because a lot of people are not getting that message, whether that's through social media, whether it's through other kinds of media, local news media, etc. So I really appreciate the ideas that have been shared here today. I love the idea of a drive-through. I love the idea of really facilitating the drop box. And I think it's just about communicating that to the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Move to close the meeting. I see a second from Mr. Moore, as evidenced by a thumbs up. Any discussion? All in favor?